Here's something I bet you didn't know. I didn't even notice this until last time I watched this one, which was just like a couple hours ago. Take a look at Hermione's parents. One of them look familiar? I'll give you a second. That's Catelyn Stark! Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. Yes, the last book in the Harry Potter series was split into 2 movies because there's a lot of material in there. And yeah, you can argue that there's a lot of material in like the 4th book on, and they were considering taking the 4th book and splitting that into 2 movies as well, and the 5th movie and the 6th movie. But ultimately, I'm glad they decided to do it for the last one. And I think this is the one that set a trend for, you know, if you have a movie series that's based off a series of books, you take the last book and split it into 2 movies. They did it with The Hunger Games, they did it with Twilight, they did it with The Hobbit, they took that book and split into 3 movies. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in Harry Potter's case, oh yeah, it definitely works. So in year 7, we actually don't go back to Hogwarts this time around. Nah man, we gotta start finding these horcruxes, we gotta take out the Dark Lord. We discovered back in year 6 that horcruxes are the secret to Voldemort's immortality. They're these random objects in which he has hidden part of his soul, so that while his body could be destroyed, his soul lives on, so he's not really dead. So now we gotta find these horcruxes, destroy them somehow, and take him down. We don't have that much to go on. We know that there's a locket out there somewhere, we have a fake one. Other than that, we really don't know much. We don't know what they are, we don't know where they are. Good luck, Harry Potter. Basically, to sum it up, this film has a very different vibe, obviously, from the previous 6 movies. It's very dark, it doesn't sugarcoat anything. There's no green filter, they got rid of that, thank God. There's no stupid annoying shit. The movie focuses so heavily on the trio and them trying to stay together in these really dark times. They're out just in the middle of nowhere, just trying to figure out the secret to how to destroy these things. They disguise themselves as other people to break into the Ministry of Magic to get the real Locket Horcrux. And after that whole skirmish, they're just out in the middle of the woods, and that's, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the movie. I've heard people say, oh, it's really slow, it's boring, nothing happens, but really think about it. As soon as they get this locket, they're just trying their damnedest to destroy the damn thing. Nothing's working, so we're traveling, and it feels like Lord of the Rings, which, yeah, you can't deny that. I mean, Harry's wearing this thing around his neck, it's changing his attitude, they're out in the middle of nowhere, they're camping, and eventually gets to a point where Ron gets so pissed off that he actually leaves the group for a bit. And while he's gone, we actually get to a scene that's one of my favorites in this one in particular. The scene wasn't in the book, it's where Harry and Hermione are dancing, they're slow dancing to this song, because the world is going nuts, you know, it's really dark, and we're just like, hey, let's just take a breather. It's just this really sweet scene I thought was pretty well done. And at the end, it actually kind of hints at, oh, maybe Harry and Hermione could be something more than friends, but in the end, she pulls away and you're like, okay. But then Ron comes back and we get the Sword of Gryffindor, which we find out can actually destroy these horcruxes. And the scene where he does that visually is awesome. This whole black cloud of smoke comes out of the horcrux. You hear Voldemort's voice, and then Ron gets so pissed off and he's like, nah, and he just alright. So now the gang's all back together with only 3 horcruxes left to go. One of the things I actually really love about this film is that we're learning more about the history of Voldemort and his past and the world and all that. We learned about a dark wizard named Gellert Grindelwald who was pretty much the Voldemort of his time way back in the day. He had a past with Dumbledore, and I hear we might be exploring that in Fantastic Beasts, which I'm really looking forward to. And we also learn about the legend of the Deathly Hallows, which is explained in this beautifully animated sequence which was so out of left field for the Harry Potter series. But I love how it was done, with Emma Watson narrating the tale of the 3 brothers, and we learn about the Deathly Hallows, the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in existence, the Resurrection Stone, which can bring back loved ones from the dead, and the Cloak of Invisibility, which you're like, wait a minute, you mean Harry's old invisibility cloak he got back in year 1? Holy crap, that's one of the Deathly Hallows? Kinda mind-blowing. At the end of the movie, we have this little skirmish at Malfoy Manor. The trio is captured by Death Eaters. Lucius Malfoy is there, Draco Malfoy is there, Bellatrix is there, and she's torturing the shit out of Hermione. That's actually really tough to watch. She's like carving her arm with a dagger, she's screaming. You're like, oh my god, wow. Luckily though, we have Dobby to the rescue. Toby Jones comes back as Dobby, and funny thing is, Dobby was in, like, I think most of the books. But he was taken out of the films because I guess he didn't matter that much. But you gotta bring him back for the last one because he's actually pretty relevant. In the end, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is really a lot of build-up. When you split a book into 2 movies, it can go either way. But it's usually Part 1 is all the build-up and Part 2 is the war. And I felt this build-up was done really, really well. They play up the emotions, they play up the danger. We truly see the scale of this threat we're up against, and how small our chances are that we're actually going to make it through this. The music for Deathly Hallows Parts 1 and 2 was composed by Alexandra Desplat, and it's great actually. In Part 1 it's actually really quiet. I mean, there are some loud parts, but for the majority of it, it's really, like, quiet. It's in the background because there's a lot of slow moments in the film. But it really works, and actually there's a special edition of the soundtrack. That's what I have. It's like this whole box set that came with a bunch of posters and stuff. For this film scoring nerd, that's pretty cool. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is a great chapter in the Harry Potter series, and the last scene is straight up cliffhanger. You're like, holy shit, what happens next? We'll have to wait till Part 2 comes out next summer. I remember it so well. So, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Have you seen it? Have you watched it recently? How does it rank among all the Harry Potter movies for you? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.